there was ever a film to be made about a generic self-help, how to succeed book, Nightcrawler would be that film. In addition to being a gripping character study into the sociopathic mind, Nightcrawler is also a straightforward, almost procedural success story. Based on the reviews I read, many people seem to despise the character of Lou Bloom, not just because he lacks empathy and any moral concern. There are many likable anti-heroes in cinema, but because he doesn't seem to get his comeuppance in the end. But I, for one, found his character to be inspiring. Now, before I start sounding like a sociopath, let's look at the parallels between Lou's journey and the advice of a typical self-help book. Control is naturally emphasized, since the self-help industry predicates on the assumption that we're ultimately in control of and therefore responsible for our own fate.
What I believe, sir, is that good things come to those who work their asses off.
Lou is always in control, so much so that as a character, he seems to be in control of the actual plot of the film, as if he was writing his own story. In screenwriting, we have the concept of passive characters and active characters. A passive character is swept up in external events, having no time to do anything other than react to the twists and turns of the screenplay. So this technique is usually used for disaster films and horror scenarios. But even active characters, who choose their own objectives, are usually caught off guard by the bumps along the screenplay. The midpoint twist, for example, is usually the point in the middle of the movie when the protagonist discovers something that shocks their worldview and throws their plans for a loop. This is just not true for Lou Bloom. In Nightcrawler, the screenplay turns are not a matter of discovery, but a matter of decision. Lou doesn't react to the plot's turning points, he orchestrates them. At the midpoint of Nightcrawler, Lou's main competitor, Joe, outraced him to a location. This is not a twist, or even a big deal. In fact, it's happened plenty of times before, but at this point, Lou decides that enough is enough, and that he's going to eliminate his enemy. With Joe out of the way, things run much smoother for Lou. Instead of things getting harder at the midpoint, like for most protagonists, Lou just gets better, as if we're experiencing the story from the antagonist's point of view. Which reminds me of the quote, "Every antagonist is the protagonist of their own story." Lou doesn't necessarily want to harm people. People just get hurt as a side effect of him pursuing his objectives. By tampering with Joe's brakes, he effectively shifts from recording reality to altering it, arranging future events as if they're simply elements within a frame. Indeed, from this point on, the rest of the events in Nightcrawler are constructed by Lou Bloom himself, from the shooting at the diner to the death of his partner, all for the benefit of his camera. It's as if he was directing the rest of the movie by directing his life.
I'm focusing on framing. A proper frame not only draws the eye into a picture, but keeps it there longer, dissolving the barrier between the subject and the outside of the frame.
This dissolution he talks about is visually represented by this shot. The focus is on the footage within Lou's camera rather than the actual scene. This is in contrast to previous scenes in which the cinematographer focuses on the scene while the footage within Lou's camera remains out of focus. Obviously, this is representative of Lou's descent into madness, but it's also a clever visual testament to the media's power to construct reality, as in perhaps what's caught on camera is more real than reality itself.
It wasn't a home invasion, it was a drug robbery.
Give it to the noon crew.
This is news.
It detracts from the story.
It is the story.
If it wasn't within the frame, then it might as well have never happened. And Lou exploits this by destroying information, deleting his footage of the men in the van, and he never gets found out, solidifying the theme that the constructed story triumphs over the actual truth. The end of Act 2 usually brings with it a big upheaval in the protagonist's journey. Once again, this is not the case with Lou Bloom. The detectives get suspicious and visit his home, which in a more conventional movie would spell the downfall of the anti-hero. But in Nightcrawler, Lou renders it into a non-event.
I made you a copy. I expected someone to come.
As always, he's 2 steps ahead. And if the cops didn't do it, surely the partner who threatens to reveal everything would lead to his downfall. Not so. Lou quickly takes care of him as well, which is admittedly kind of a coincidental event, to create a powerful climax for the film, but even if it didn't happen this way, I'm sure Lou would quickly find some other way to eliminate any threat to his existence, just as he did to Joe. He records his partner dying and even takes his camera away, effectively robbing him of his voice and supplying it with his own. His constructed version of the events. Is it any surprise then that he gets away unscathed at the end? Most protagonists face a tumultuous journey of ups and downs throughout a film, but Lou experiences a steady rise to the top. The dramatic turns in the screenplay are shocking to the audience, but they're not shocking to Lou, because in a way, he engineered them, ensnaring the audience into his new story as if we're just another side character. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, also gotta mention that I am aware of the parallel between Lou Bloom and big business. It just didn't really fit into the body of my analysis, but it does kind of explain his invincibility. Unfortunately, corporations seem to have more legal rights and loopholes than individuals, and if you want to know more about that, I recommend the film The Corporation, which is a documentary cleverly comparing a corporation to a psychopath. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe since I'm always working on new things. And I'm very curious to hear about what you thought of this film and the character of Lou Bloom, so leave a comment below. Oh, and it's funny I feel the need to even mention this, but for the record, no, I don't think it's okay to hurt people. It's just that a few of his characteristics were inspiring.